What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 25 of the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. Great to be here. Great to be back for another milestone episode.
Yeah, 25. I know. 25.
What do you call a wedding when it's 25 years? Diamond?
Maybe. The diamond episode.
I don't think it's diamond. There's going to be something a little less shiny.
Oh, it's
I feel like 50 should be diamond because it's like...
Ooh.
Takes the time to craft.
Yeah. To like get together, make all nice and solid, like all the compressed, like...
Yeah, pressure builds diamonds, right?
Yeah.
50 years of pressure.
Mm-hmm. 50 years of podcast.
Not quite at 50 yet. 25. I feel like it's bronze.
Bronze? Yeah,
Let's
it could be.
bronze.
We're a quarter way through to like 100th, future 100th episode.
Future 100th.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to get to 100. It's going to be...
Determined to get there now.
100%. Yeah, because we're doing them weekly and they're just so much fun. But these... Well, just even this last week, it's so nice that even just the news or like all the info that's coming out, it's just not as COVID related anymore, which is awesome. Like I feel
Something
like it's just been
to talk about other than how many people are sick and how many days until release.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just been for the last like this whole year, it's just been all COVID news, but it's just lately it's been like tech is happening, people are making moves, like...
But is it because now that the news, the media in general, don't have the pillar content to lean on? Like COVID's like... The whole thing with media and news is like you want to be able to sell what's scary and dreadful in the world to be able to have your... We've talked about this a bunch of times. Your ad payers, people that pay your bills so they can run ads and stuff. So like if no one's watching the news... There's no money to be made in media, so they've got to like think of bigger, not more extreme because there's not much more extreme than COVID you can get.
But those attention-grabbing sort of stories,
and they have to elaborate on them more. I think, just to keep up with the height of the. I feel like COVID's set a benchmark.
I think so. Like, is it's just like there's been, it's been present for so long that. Anything that's coming out now has to sort of take precedence or has to be exciting or engaging enough that it takes, the momentum away from
COVID.
Yeah, and everything that's happening.
In saying that, what's it going to take for like the next level of COVID? So let's say there's tiers of heightened anxiety and news coverage. Delta, the last 3 months, pretty hectic here in Australia. It'd have to be something big to then overcome all the other news stories that are now becoming more of a problem. That makes sense.
No, it does. It would have to be...
Piggyback on all the current stuff.
It'd have to be like a new strain that would be even more deadly than the previous one. But I think now that...
strains.
Yeah, there's a wider group of people now that are vaccinated. So I think with that in the benchmark of like with how people are traveling... I don't know if there's going to be anything as crazy unless if it's going to be like a hectic strain that none of the vaccinations would work for it.
Or a new virus entirely.
Yeah, like COVID 2.0.
Anyway, we've jumped straight into just random news. We should say that, this is our episode. Sorry, just like rewind a tiny bit there.
Yeah.
This is our 25th episode and we're going to try and do a longer, more
like just
established. I've only had one coffee and it's 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday. This is our day off, so I'm struggling. But this is going to be a longer episode. We're going to aim for about an hour and a half. So stick with us. Yeah. Pour yourself your own coffee and strap in. I'm going to try and just have a general chit-chat. I don't think we've talked for an hour and a half face-to-face before on a bunch of topics. Like obviously you touch base here and there throughout the day as a couple.
Yeah.
So it could be an interesting chat.
Well, like I was saying, just so much has happened in this past week alone, and we just started talking about it. We're trying to figure out, so what could this episode be about? Because we wanted it to be a little bit more current, what's going on in the media, but we realized it's been intense. It's been an intense week.
Too much to cover.
Exactly, and it's too much to try and fit in that half an hour time frame. So we're going to challenge ourselves to see how long we can go for today.
We could have just done a bunch of YouTube shorts.
Oh, we could.
10-minute rapid fire, 1 minute each on each topic.
Well, what we can do, which is always like a helpful tip, like the Gary V mentality, is just, chop up what you do have.
Chop.
And put more content out there from
When's
your
it too late to get the chop?
Oh.
I read an article the other week that someone got circumcised in their 30s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think there is too late of a time for that. I mean, you'd probably be a little bit more of an expert than I would be.
Oh, no, sorry, I got the story wrong. Someone got their what's it when you get your...
Circumcised?
No, when you get your tubes tied.
Oh, like a vasectomy.
Like the male version, what's that called?
It's vasectomy.
Same name for both genders.
Yeah.
Had that at like 16 or 17 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke was like you didn't wait long
Oh, right.
after your circumcision to get a second snip. Anyway,
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on from that weird one. But yeah, like we were saying, there's just been like way too much. So we're going to see how long we can go for today.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need another sip of coffee as well.
We might have to have a intermission.
Ooh, little break so we can...
More coffee
so we can keep energized and keep this conversation flowing.
Yeah, so how has your week been? It feels like every week just blends in. It's a random conversation starter. How's your week been? What's been going on? It's usually just general small talk, but anything interesting or noteworthy happened?
Not really. Like for those that don't know, I work in retail, so I, see the general public on a regular basis. The only big change is, as of next week, more people can be let indoors. So
No cap on the stores.
Yeah, there's still a cap, but it's it used to be 1 every 4, now it's 1 every 2. So it's been
densities changed.
Yeah. So densities changed.
So therefore the capacity would have to change as well.
100%.
Square footage, yeah.
Yeah. So things are getting a little bit more. Well, each week they're going to be opening up more, so more people are flowing through. I'm just noticing a lot more people out and about and actually getting out and doing things, which I think is creating, just more stuff happening on in the world. Which
more people interacting and less sales on eBay. It's been a very, very slow week for eBay sellers. So very slow week of sales on an eBay store. And I think that's probably a common thread across the board. Everyone's getting out, spending money in person, not scouring eBay for deals. And
no, because you're not locked indoors, surfing the web, finding the next best thing or trying to fill that, retail therapy hole that a lot of people would have.
Movies will be cranking, I reckon, even though we're a month behind of the American releases.
Yeah, well, the Sydney Film Festival just started as well.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting. I don't think they're having a big event like they usually do. So I think a lot of cinemas are just having...
small runs.
Yeah,
small
exactly.
capacity. Yeah,
just set up to try and open it up and give all those people that have their indie films or just the interesting, I guess, not the crazy action, guns a-blazing type films a bit of limelight.
We got 2 weeks off. We should... I think I actually was going to have a look because it is your birthday in 2 weeks. I was not going to lie. I was looking at options, see if there's anything to do, but they're all... You can only buy tickets to individual movies. You can't just go for like a whole day of just back to back. You can see a short film, like compilation event, but short films are alright, but I'd rather just watch a whole one. But yeah, and then you have to pick off like 100 different movies what you want to watch, and then there's only so much a little bio or caption can give you. So it's like I don't know which one to pick. So I don't know. I'd rather just go see a blockbuster.
Yeah, one that's coming out. But
I think Eternals is out. Marvel.
Oh.
Don't know what it's about. It's got Angelina Jolie. It's got to be a hit, right?
Yeah, all those Marvel ones are a hit, aren't they? Most of them?
Yeah, most of them.
Most of them are a hit. I was thinking, what about that? No, that's DC. DCs are usually the big misses. I'm actually, for those that are watching, I'm wearing a Spider-Man shirt. So there we go.
Spider-Man ringer.
Yeah, little Marvel one. Yeah, do you like the ringer shirts anyway?
Well, isn't the new Spider-Man coming out, the multiverse one?
Must be. I don't know. I feel like there's a new Spider-Man every time, like every year.
Yeah, but I think this one has all 3 of them in it, doesn't it?
Oh, I've heard about that. I don't know. Have you read much into it at all?
About as far as I got.
Yeah. I think there was like whispers of like, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and having all those classics. That'll be kind of interesting because they had the cartoon version, so it'll be kind of cool to see like a live action version. That'd be
very cool.
Yeah.
Hanging out for Dune though. I'm halfway through the book.
I haven't even started the book yet. So you've got the original TV show, you've got the new, not TV show, the original movies. Yeah. And then you've got the new movie that's coming out.
I think there's a bunch of movies. One of those ones where it's like Planet of the Apes where they get redone every 10, 15 years and they do one and they do a random like sequel and then 10 years later they do another one. I remember trying to read the book ages ago and it was heaps confusing because I didn't know any of the terminology. And then I tried watching the movie. I think it was from the 90s or maybe late 80s. Yeah. And just couldn't understand it at all, gave up on it. And now this new movie is supposed to be crazy hyped. So I'm like, or get the audiobook because it has a full cast of voice actors, so you're not getting just one narrator.
Those are the best kind of
good. And
audiobooks, yeah.
There's sound effects and stuff, and straight away you can sort of understand where it's going, which is cool. So halfway through that, that's what I'm looking forward to. That doesn't come out till December here in Sydney, so
yeah,
don't know what else to see until then.
No, we might actually do a review on the Dune later on. Maybe it's going to be yeah. There's a lot to cover in that one. That should be kind of exciting. It's sci-fi. It's something that we're interested in. Yeah, it'd be pretty exciting. That actually reminds me. So with Dune, because like I'm always keeping an eye out. I follow NASA on Facebook, and I always
say.
Yeah, I don't really go on Facebook that much anymore, just because I know there's not a lot of noteworthy stuff on there, but every now and then, like I'll see NASA would post something, and they're launching a new telescope in December, which is really exciting. It's almost the Hubble 2.0. Have you seen? I think I told you about this the other day. I'm not that into NASA,
to be honest.
Oh, really? Why not?
I mean, like, what can you follow? Hey guys, we sent some more satellites up.
Yeah, that's fair. It's only really like the big sort of exciting things. Like they do launch rockets quite on a regular basis, but this is I think you're just going to bring up the article, so thank you for that. It's the James Webb Hubble telescope. So I was looking a little bit into it, and they haven't. Do you know when the original Hubble telescope was launched?
I honestly don't even know what a Hubble telescope is. Like, I get lost in all the space news. They're sending rockets up. They're sending Elon up. They're sending Shatner up. They're sending trial rockets. They're sending probes up. It's just the same to me.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it's all, like, really noteworthy and crucial, like, science, and, you know, we're getting towards Star Trek life.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, but I don't know which of these sort of mini events is significant or not, so I don't really follow any of it for that reason. I feel like if there's a major thing going to happen, like the moon landing, where it's a big deal, I'm going to be hearing about it for weeks and weeks. It's not going to just be a passing sort of article. So I don't know much about it. What is the Hubble telescope?
So the original one was launched in 1990. So that's how long it's been since they've updated or put in new tech for the telescope. So these telescopes pretty much take pictures from super, super long distance. So, you know, those stars and galaxies.
So there's no people on board. It's just...
No, it's just purely just a telescope.
Yeah.
So this one, when they're launching it, they're predicting it to be able to see hopefully like not the first stars made, but the really, really earlier on ones. So, you know, those ones that are super faded in the distance because they're just...
There's no light emitting because it's so many light years...
Exactly.
Away,
yeah. So they're predicting that this one will be able to see even further than the actual Hubble telescope.
So it's just like Hubble 2.0?
100% it is.
So a new one?
Yeah.
So what happens to the old one?
So the old one will still be there, but this one's actually just going to see further. So imagine getting a camera, right? And then putting a lens on the camera. Yeah, like a zoom lens. So you'll be able to see more. So this one's going to be launching mid-December. So I think once it's launched and it's at its destination, because apparently it's going to be like 2 weeks of like turbulent travel, like is it actually going to get there? And I think when we start seeing the first images, then it's going to be really, really exciting to see how far. But with this new one, I was reading and it's almost like when they're launching it, because it's going to be so big and so massive, it's going to be like an origami unfolding. They had to design it in a way where the shields, like the sun shields and all that kind of stuff, would have to fold into a rocket and then fold out. So there's been like these heaps big challenges of it being able to fold out. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Space is one of those things that's very hard to comprehend. I'm looking at pictures here of the unfolding of, I guess, like the camera itself on top of the rocket. I guess is a very simple way of describing it. And all you can really compare it to is, what's that movie with Clooney?
Oh, yeah.
And they're out there trying to, I think it's Clooney. There's so many good space movies.
Like you've got...
Where they have to go out in the...
Gravity?
I think it's Gravity.
Yeah, there's the Gravity one. And
where
there's
they go
also...
out and the solar panel's like stuck and it's not folding. It essentially looks like that, but no one there to fix it. So what if it doesn't fold correctly?
Well, then I'm assuming they'll probably send engineers out to have a look at it. Because, you know, you already have... There's people up in space at the moment, right? Yeah, so they'll probably send someone out to have a look at it, I would suppose.
Just like a repairman floating around.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking like
a space mechanic.
Like a Han Solo type lone crusader guy. Just That's gonna be the future for sure.
Space mechanic traveling around, fixing.
Around.
Yeah, and you'd have like space trash man grabbing all the space trash.
Nah,
there's heaps out there.
Yeah, but I'm sure it just accumulates in like the ocean. How it gets the big, what are they called?
Big plastic stuff that's like in the middle of the ocean, or the microplastics.
They just accumulate over like kilometers into one one little big oil spill, rubbish spill in space. That'll just happen. Or just burn out from the sun, I guess. I did do astronomy at uni for 6 months, but
6 months.
I'll be damned if I remember any of it. We did look at telescopes one time.
You'd only brush the surface in 6 months.
Well, it's mostly learning about different planet types, different physics, the way light is going through space and all that stuff. And I was doing biology, so I don't know why. I think it was just like an elective type subject.
Yeah, to help get you those extra points.
But the going down and looking at the telescopes in a clear night with no light pollution was crazy.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And like that's the whole idea of this telescope is just being able to see more, and then the prospect of being able to see more is you get more data, maybe able to see evidence of life, which is pretty exciting.
I think I read yesterday that they seen a planet that I'll see if I can pull anything up. Oh no, it's too far away. I can't type.
Yep.
About water on a planet. I mean, we need to save more articles to touch on them more or read more. But yeah, a planet that's, I guess they've been researching for a while. They found that it does have signs of water, which is always encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. For our environment, if you've got water and oxygen, that's potential for life, right? And carbon dioxide.
So you said you seen that article on Facebook.
Yeah, no, because I just follow, I use Facebook to follow groups and pages and things. So most of the time I use it for Facebook Marketplace because we're resellers and, that's what we look at for.
Yeah.
But I also like to follow, certain groups. So whether it's hiking ones, sci-fi ones. But yeah, NASA's always a really interesting one.
What's the NASA group called?
It's just like the NASA page. Because they have a big social media force with NASA, so they're always putting out new info.
Isn't NASA founded on Hitler scientists and they were ex physicists from
Germany?
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be something.
Anyway, side note, they've done plenty of great work.
Well,
maybe some horrible work.
Germany had a lot of good scientists.
Brainiacs.
Yeah, a lot of brainiacs there.
Speaking on Facebook, another huge news article. Sorry, I'm just going to go into news mode for a second.
That's
another
all right.
huge news article this week coming out of Silicon Valley, I'm guessing. I'm pretty sure they're in Silicon Valley. Or they're pretty in their own state these days, Facebook. Facebook has now changed its name to Meta.
That was a big whirlwind.
Like, talking about news articles that can trump COVID, that's up there.
Yeah, Facebook, no matter if they do, I don't think they've done anything that's like good for people or the environment, but every time they make a move, it's going to be crazy in the media just because they're such a huge conglomerate company.
This is a big move. This is an entire rebranding and name change. So if you're listening to us, I mean, you probably have access to the internet. This is probably the 100th thing that you've come across today. And you've probably realized by now that Facebook has now been renamed as Meta. So they're going hard on trying to connect us in the metaverse.
Yeah, well, the Facebook app is still going to be called Facebook, apparently.
It will change.
Yeah, it will change eventually.
Because that app is what? That app is what started them. That's your primary means of connection with people. It's called Facebook now, but unless they create a whole nother app for the VR.
Like Facebook 2.0,
they're going to have some VR element in it. It's going to be the metaverse. It's going to be, essentially, instead of logging in and seeing your feed, you're going to be logging in to your world, and then it'll be like digital screens and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they've got to keep that app because that's what everyone's using.
Same as like Messenger and like Instagram is also obviously another part of it.
Same thing with business. Customer acquisition is like the hardest thing. I imagine it's the same with like onboarding customers and new users to a brand new app. They have to keep it the same. It'll change over time for sure. But yeah, rebranded to Meta. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was like, what the hell? Why would you do this? And I started thinking a little bit more about it. And I remembered ages ago, Facebook bought Oculus Rift, and they were huge. They were, because I remember they were on, all the GoFundMes trying to raise money because there's going to be this next big thing in virtual reality, and then it all sort of went away almost. Like there was this big hype, and then Facebook bought it, and then it was dark for ages.
So the other players there was Oculus, there was
like HP have their own one. Obviously, you got like PlayStation VR.
There was another huge one I'm forgetting as well. But yeah, so that's what happened. They bought it. They just buried it for a little while they built up the tech. And
developing it and seeing how they can incorporate it into their platform. And then I started sort of thinking that way. And like that makes sense that they want to then branch out into the metaverse, because that's going to be, it's probably going to be the next stage going forward for like social media, networking, connecting.
I think we're capped out the way everything's set up now. Text, image, video. In all the different platforms, like Facebook's been around for more than 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
About 10 years. I feel like this method of communication between humans and like the way they post things on social media, it's pretty capped out. There's not that much room for innovation.
No.
And just the way sci-fi goes and technology goes, it has to be going to a metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've touched on the metaverse before in one of our crypto episodes when we're talking about NFTs and top shops and stuff. So we sort of really, when we're talking about it, we sort of brush the surface, and then this sort of come up again. And it seems like all these big companies are going to start investing in this virtual space for advertising.
A lot of them already are.
Yeah. So you got like, isn't Nike and
I don't know which companies have bought what where. I know huge players.
Like a lot of fashion people.
Fashion spaces, yeah, because it's all about like the experience, shopping experience. So like in the crypto world, you have Decentraland. You have, I'm blanking hard today. Decentraland is a bunch of other metaverses, and yeah, you just have like a digital character, like a video game essentially, but you can interact with the world around you.
Yeah.
It's essentially like that, and then you can purchase items and goods.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I would explain it like a virtual shopping mall.
Yeah, virtual shopping mall. Or if you've seen, what's that movie? Reply.
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One, thank you. So similar to that as well. But imagine just say those big fashion like Louis Vuitton, all those places, you put on your VR headset, jump in, go shopping, try on the clothes virtually, and then order them online, and they come to your door.
Yeah. Digital assets going to be the future. And we've been saying it, NFTs, they're in a bit of a cold state at the moment. Crypto's in a bit of a weird wave. But NFTs, digital assets like that, digital real estate is the next frontier. So it's definitely worth doing your research in. Yeah,
because people are making like casinos and stuff as well.
If Facebook's changing their name, like they could have just created a sub-brand instead of changing Facebook entirely.
They really could have.
They're incorporating the entire Facebook experience into the metaverse, right? So a lot of things that are going to happen in the next 10 years in that space. The other huge technology competitors, Google, Amazon, would have to be working on competing technology. They wouldn't just let Facebook slide in and monopolize that space, because they're one of the biggest brands in the world, Facebook.
100% they are.
Who's going to compete with them? The other 4 or 5 biggest ones. If they don't, then they're just missing out on potential piece of the pie.
Yeah, the next ones would have to be the big players like, well, obviously they already own Instagram, but, will Twitter have a space? Will YouTube have a space? Like all these people. But I was actually reading this morning that there's already a company called Meta. Have you read that article yet?
I haven't. We're going to pull it up now.
Yeah.
In saying that, there's got to be at least 1,000 companies called Meta.
Yeah. I think this one's just the biggest one, because the Meta PC company that's actually in Silicon Valley, and apparently Facebook had approached them to buy the name and they declined.
Okay, so Chicago-based tech company Meta Company alleged that Facebook stole our name and livelihood after the social media firm rebranded last week. They couldn't buy us, so they tried to bury us by force of media. We wouldn't be surprised by these actions from a company that continually says one thing and does another. Facebook and its operating officers are deceitful and acting in bad faith, not only towards us, but to all of humanity. So what they tried to buy their name and they refused, and they just stripped it anyway?
Yeah, apparently they had, and obviously there'll always be 2 sides to the story, so this is just their version. But apparently in both the US, and they must have a version in the Europe as well, but like 2 law firms were like bothering them trying to sell their name by the name. But I was also reading, apparently it's not 100% trademarked yet either. So it's going to be a bit of a name off. Depends who actually gets the trademark name.
It's got to surely just be a matter of who can pay the most.
Yeah, but also there's a lot of people out there that know that Facebook are this big company. And imagine if you get like some judge that'd be like, yo, you're too big. I don't care. This small company can have the name.
Interesting.
I
don't see any way around it other than just money influences all decisions at that point.
Yeah, obviously, I keep saying obviously, but Facebook would have the best lawyers imaginable to be able to win a case like this.
Yeah.
But then it would just come down to the type of court it's in and then the type of judge you have. So would you have someone who's super non-biased, someone who's, paid off under the table, or someone who's just like for, the small, who loves the small underdogs and will help them win? Like it could go one of 3 ways.
Don't see it happening.
Nah.
No, they've got to win. They've got lawyers, like you said.
Well, like they were saying, like they've just used media to bury them under the rug because, as we were saying before, as soon as Facebook make a move, it's going to be covered everywhere because it's so international. Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to make through. But they were joking, like on Twitter, they released like a photo of like Zuckerberg holding one of their PCs and like promoting their product. So they've got. So whether this small company is then using the media to their advantage to be like, give us the name, we're the underdogs.
Yeah. Or they could just change their name and still get the media.
Yeah.
All news is good news, right?
Mm-hmm. All comes down to money, doesn't it?
So I wonder what they're going to do with Instagram.
Instagram metaverse. That would be interesting.
It's interesting how they'll play it out.
Yeah, because because Facebook is all photo based. That's its platform, and that's very
how does
similar.
Facebook make its money?
Through ads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ads.
Yeah.
Traditionally, where are ads shown? TV, billboards, newspapers, side of buses.
Yeah, wherever.
Now it's just whoever pays the most for a spot online gets it shown up. And now it's just going to be a combination of that in the metaverse. So a digital billboard, notifications as you're walking through your metaverse, like little notifications and ads coming up. So it's just all going to be the same concept, but in a 3D virtual space. And then it comes down to, like, how are you going to interact with that space? They're going to have to sell some sort of physical product for people to engage with it. Mm-hmm. Is everyone going to have... Everyone has an iPhone now. Is everyone going to have a pair of Ray-Ban Meta Facebook glasses in their pocket that they can use?
Well, probably very similar to, how the ads, they target you depending on your demographic, depending on what you click through, what your interests are. So it would be very similar in the metaverse as well. So not everybody would have the same pair of Ray-Bans. They would be targeted depending on what their algorithm says they're suited for. So
no, but like to interact with the space, you need some sort of device, right?
Oh yeah, so it'd be whether you'd have Oculus Rift goggles.
That's what I'm saying. But like, what if Ray-Ban? What if they?
Well, both have something.
Yeah, but what if they just buy it? Like, yeah, any brand. I'm just saying Ray-Ban as an example.
Yeah,
they've got to sell hardware to interact with that. So how much is that hardware going to cost? Is it going to have the same sort of ubiquitous spread and uptake as the iPhone does? Like.
Or is it just going to be like the top, 5% of the population being able to afford it and be part of it? So then the metaverse is going to become this top-end clientele aspect.
It won't be. It's all about the masses. They need to sell ads to Jenny on the block down the street, the mum that's just going about her day-to-day stuff. They need to be able to sell ads to every single person in the world.
Yeah.
So the hardware has to be super cheap, I'd imagine, unless there's some other way of they're planning on doing it, but my understanding is you need some sort of device or headset or glasses to interact with that space. You can't just look at the phone and just scroll through.
It won't work that way. Same as the something as simple as the PlayStation VR. Like you need that headset to be able to interact with it. Do you remember when Google released like their funky glasses to be able to? Do you remember those?
Not Google Lens, Google Frames.
Yeah, Google Frames or Google Glasses, and you could. Yeah, it was almost like their next step. I think it all went downhill, but that was something. Yeah.
You got to try.
Yeah.
But this technology is only, like, you can fail, but you can only grow from there.
Yeah. It'd be interesting because big places like that thrive on advertising like Facebook and Google, but you also have the other side of like the traditional crypto where everything's meant to be anti-establishment, no government, no rules, but everything's like all open sourced.
Mm.
Do you think there'd be like a different version or a different space in the metaverse where there's like no ads, no big companies? Like,
No.
it would all just
Not
be
in
one
there
big.
one.
No.
No.
Yeah, so just be.
It can't be decentralized. I don't have a great back following point to like back that up, but Facebook want to own everything. They want to own all the data. They want to own all the information. Well, they can't have it decentralized. They need everything at their fingertips so they can sell ads to people.
What's the age-old thing? Knowledge is power, right? So the more they know about you, the more they can get for it.
Yep.
Crazy.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of interesting ways to segue between these topics.
Different topics.
A lot of interesting news out of Australia this week.
Oh, man, do not get me started. Like, what is going on with Australian politics right now?
Yeah.
Far out. Like,
I'm not going to touch on everything because
No.
I don't want to like just glaze over something without having all my facts and stuff in place. I mean, we're pretty good at that.
We try to.
Yeah. Did you want to bring up something? You had something in mind? You're pretty excited about that?
Not necessarily. It's just been.
I feel
There's
like
just been so much
this is a revelation I had this morning, right? Like thinking of topics to like chat about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're getting desensitized to death.
With everything that's getting thrown at us.
Yeah. COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as my understanding, there was, you can just look at the numbers, way more people in other countries died compared to Australians due to COVID.
Yeah.
Still scary. Still a scary thing. To be hospitalised, be on a ventilator, ICU, to have a loved one die. Not disregarding that, but I feel like death is like, I know we just glaze over it now. We just finished watching Squid Game last night.
Mm-hmm.
After like the third episode of everyone, like pretty much everyone getting killed, spoiler alert, it just becomes like, oh, like this person's going to die. Like it starts becoming way too normal.
Well,
so when you hear of people in the media like Bert Newton just passed away this week, obviously he's been on his last
legs for a while.
Don't say that because he had his leg amputated at the start of the year.
Yeah. Did not know that. Sorry.
It just becomes, you just glaze over it. And like a crazy story that happened this morning, I don't know if you know about, 8 people got trampled or to death or died at the Travis Scott concert.
What?
Because there was just crowd surges.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
I did not hear
yesterday.
about that's whereabouts was this?
So this was in Houston last night.
Far out.
They had their Astroworld festival day 1. Hundreds of people were like I was going to say ambulized. What's the word?
The injured.
Or injured or needed some sort of
medical
care.
attention.
I mean, I'm struggling. We need to not do this on Sunday mornings.
Sundays are a chill day.
Yeah, 8 people dead between the ages of like 14 and I think 27 after crowd surge at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival. So like I spent a fair bit of time this morning like reading about this. It's pretty crazy. I'll set all. You can just react and answer.
Right.
I'll set all this
okay.
up. What's the craziest? Like obviously not compared to this, but the craziest concert you've been to? What was the band? What was like the crowd like? Have you ever felt in fear of not danger necessarily of being like violently attacked, but like being caught and trampled or like that sort of feeling, helplessness in like a crowd capacity like that?
I've been in quite a few mosh pits in my early 20s because I was emo, hardcore, that kind of thing. I've been like squashed. I've never been trampled before. I think something that's pretty decent within Australia, especially like the mosh pit scene, is people tend to look after each other, especially smaller people or especially women as well, which is always quite nice. Obviously, there are some bad stories out there of like women being touched and all that kind of stuff in a mosh pit. But like from my experience, it's been generally positive. One thing that's always good, especially if you have good bouncers, like if you raise your hand, need some water, things like that, they'll get you out of there, which is always really helpful. But there's been a couple of moments, especially when I've been like younger, like you get squashed and you have that moment of being like, like I can't move.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to get...
Have you ever fallen, like got stuck underneath? Like fallen down?
No, so I've never fallen down, luckily. But yeah, like I've heard those stories happening, but I think generally in Australia, people are a little bit more friendly in that particular scene. I mean, it has been a while.
You're saying other countries aren't as friendly?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying my personal experience, but I know knowing Australians,
okay,
like it's just...
That's fair.
Yeah, it's just something that
But also we don't get this is a 50,000 person crowd.
no.
So it's a capacity thing as well.
Was this the first concert or first festival in a really long time?
I'm not sure. It was in Texas. I know Texas has been opened up to larger crowds for longer than other states.
And Travis Scott is huge right now.
Yeah.
Like,
So
he's
Travis,
massive.
I was like, just put this in context. I was thinking about the craziest concerts I've been to or witnessed. I haven't been, like, Soundwave is probably the largest crowds we would have here without going to some, like, I can't think of any other mega events.
But
it's
they'll also
usually
have different stages set up, so
separated.
everyone's
So
spread
this
out.
is a multi-stage thing, I believe, but obviously he's the headliner.
So everyone wants to
Like,
see him.
You had, like, Drake coming out as a guest at some points and
Oh
stuff
my
like
God,
that.
yeah.
So, like, everyone's going to be there. I imagine there's different, like, rides and carnival type things to attend, but everyone's there for that main stage. It's not, you're not seeing 6 stages of all similar sized bands with similar sized followings spread out. So all people are there, right? Soundwave, I feel like, I don't know what the numbers would have been, but like you see Slipknot or Metallica or something, it's pretty crazy, but this, like I said, it's not 100% of the attendees at that one stage.
Yeah.
So 50,000 people, sold out, all that sort of stuff. There was actually, he tweeted back in May that something about the show's sold out, but we'll still let the wild ones in. Basically saying, like, feel free to, like, crash the gates,
Far out.
like jump the fence and all that sort of stuff. And I've seen people jump the fences at concerts here, and usually after 5 or 6 people, the situation's controlled, right? Like, security are all over it.
Yeah.
Look at this video of, like, just 12 to 18-year-olds just storming the fence. It's got to be, like, at least 100, 200 people, like, jumping the fence, trampling each other. There's people
Oh
just
my
getting...
gosh, is that the fence there?
This is at the start of the day.
Far out.
So people just getting squashed, stuck on a rail.
Oh my gosh.
Dragging each other out. There's not much the security can do.
No, look at everybody falling.
And then they sort of get a hold of it at one point.
Yeah.
The cops come in on horseback.
Far out.
So first of all, like, they've encouraged people to jump the fence. Like, Travis Scott, like, has some great music, not going to lie. His whole mentality towards, like, concerts and stuff is just about raging out. Like, it's like a metal
big, massive
concert,
party,
but, like,
yeah.
it's just rage, just go crazy.
Yeah.
So all these people are running in. This has been playing for, like, a minute and a half now. Hundreds of people running in. Cops can't do anything. First of all, as a security issue, any of these people could have weapons on them, a shitload of drugs, or whatever else. They're not coming through in an orderly fashion, like a normal concert, having bags checked, whatever else. Straight away, that's not great.
No, definitely not.
These sort of festivals, they have capacity limits for a reason, right?
Because for safety.
Well, the barricades can only handle a certain amount of people.
And a certain amount of weight as well, yeah.
So that's whatever. Let's say 200-300 people just through automatically on top of the already sold out crowd. Not to mention probably a bunch of other scenes where people are jumping through fences and you don't even see or hear about. And then basically at the concert, there was just crowd surges the entire time. So like people pinned against fences. I know the only real crazy event like this that I have any familiarity with is when Limp Bizkit toured Big Day Out, I think 2000, 2001, and I think her name was Jessica, 17-year-old.
Yes.
Was trampled, I think she was trampled, right?
Yep.
That was one person. That was 20 years ago, and that was a huge deal at the time. Limp Bizkit were under the microscope for ages because of that. So
that was one person.
That was one person, and they changed the entire approach to how barricades were set up. I believe they went from a D barricade to a T barricade, where like it was split down the middle.
It literally changed the whole way Australia does concerts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how these ones were done. It looked crazy. I've seen some videos of people posting on Twitter. People trying to get out at the back of the barricade. Not even anywhere near the stage. It was that packed. They were trying to get out the back of it. It was
Far
that packed.
out. Yeah.
Essentially, there was a bunch of spots where people were getting trampled and stuck down. There was incidents with people getting stuck down for 2 entire songs, laying like 2 or 3 deep on top of each other.
God.
I've been stuck under like once for like 10, 15 seconds, and it's not a great feeling. And
No,
I'm
it wouldn't
a
be.
pretty big guy.
Yeah, you are, yeah.
And in this sort of environment, it's just a domino effect. If there was people there, they reckon they couldn't move their arms up or down, they couldn't breathe because they were just pinned against each other. And then as soon as one person falls down, it's not a very controlled environment. So if your leg gets tangled in and you like stumble a little bit, you have no control. Then you grab someone's shirt and they come down, and it's just piling on.
Oh, man.
The concert was going on a bunch of times. You can see in that image there, an ambulance actually reversed into the pit to like pull people out. There was people unconscious all over the place.
Why wouldn't they start trying to evacuate people? Or was it just that out of control?
I don't know. Apparently, it went on for about 45 minutes after the first person was resuscitated. There was people pulling. There was people that were like, obviously there to see a concert that were just like screaming, "Stop, stop, stop!" But he's doing his thing. He's so high up off the stage, screaming. Who knows if he could hear him or not? No one stopped anything for ages. There was people. I was just reading on Twitter this morning. People that were guests. Not guests. Why am I saying guests? I'm being too weird about it.
Like artists also in the...
No, people in the crowd that were coming, that were like being put over the front barrier and doing CPR on other people, and the security guards, the ambulance, paramedics and stuff really had no idea what they were doing, completely unprepared. There was people in the crowd that were giving CPR to people that had pulses and stuff.
Far
It was
out.
just chaotic. So yeah, 8 people tragically died. A bunch of people just trampled.
Did they cut off the concert or did it play into the end?
I don't know how it actually ended, but it went on for ages.
Like 45 minutes is like way too long. Someone should have just like turned on the lights, cut the music,
there was a
stopped
couple
everything.
that climbed onto the stage and were like got onto stage and were like, you got to stop, telling the camera guy, because this was all getting filmed live on YouTube as well. I'm pretty sure it was a live concert.
Oh my God, you would have this all on film.
Yeah, but not of the crowd, it's just of the performance.
Yeah, of course,
you can't see anything. But there's people who have synced up the live performance with people's like Twitter, like screen grabs and stuff, and like synced it up and stuff so you can see the event unfold in like from multiple angles.
Far out.
Like he acknowledges people passing out and like continues singing and stuff as they're like just getting like an unconscious dude just floating along the top to the front. You just keep singing, like it's pretty crazy. And yeah, 2 people jumped up and tried telling the camera dude like people are dying. The camera guy's like not paying attention. Like he's got a job to do. Like he doesn't know what's going on. Like
he's not getting paid by them. He's getting paid to keep filming.
Yeah, but also like are these kids like lying? Are they just trying to get on? Like who knows what the situation is? He's getting paid. There's people there to get paid for certain jobs. That dude's a cameraman. He's getting paid to do that. He's not there to like check the crowd.
And I guess as well, like you read about going back, one of the things like the Beatles stopped performing because the screens were too loud. They couldn't even hear themselves play.
Yeah.
So is it this one of those scenarios where he's just got his earplugs in, he's just like doing his thing and not knowing, not hearing anything because he's just so focused on making the best performance ever?
Yeah, you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a performer. He's got 50,000 people there to see him. He's got
used
lights
to these crazy shows.
He's got lights in his face. He might have like you go to any of his concerts. There's people passing out. There's people fainting from dehydration, drugs, 1 or 2, whatever. They usually, I'm
like
sure, get sorted out. So it might have just seemed like a normal thing to him. So like you can't put the blame on him. Like obviously he pays tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to people to run these events and manage them for him. So who knows who's at fault really? And then shortly after, there are reports that people were getting injected and passing out. So there was like malice involved.
What?
So apparently one of the security guards fell unconscious and had a injection prick neck in his neck. And they had to give him, I think it's called Narcan to wake him up, which is
Is that like that steroid shot to like the heart?
I think it stops opioids from having their effect.
Right. Yeah.
So like
a stimulant shot almost.
Yeah. But then the question is, why would a security guard like pass out? Why would he have an injection thing on his neck? So who knows if that was the cause of all of it, or if that's just a made-up story to make Travis Scott and his team look better. Like, this could all end in a crazy conspiracy, but I guess they've got to do autopsies on the 8 people that have passed away and stuff. But that's another thing as well. Like, it might have been crowd surges. It might have just been everyone going crazy, a bunch of people getting trampled, domino effect, another 50 people get caught in the tumble. Or if someone's gotten in, you've seen those 200 people run in, they could have a gun. They could have been way worse.
Mm-hmm.
But what if someone had a bunch of syringes with some sort of drug just to make people go unconscious? All you need is 4 or 5 people to like pass out and like fall backwards,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to grab 2 or 3 people. It's going to domino effect. And then it spreads into 20, 30, 40 people. So who knows what happened?
Far out. There's so many different like things that could have made it. So did people were trying to target the security guards so they could surge forward and like drugging them so they can't like stop it from happening? Did someone want to make sure?
One security guard, but yeah.
Is like, do they want the concert to stop because they have something against Travis Scott, or is it just absolutely crazy?
Or like if you're just trying to create a big news story, or you want to have, if you're some sort of serial killer but you don't want to go around shooting people, that's a weird way to do it. But and how the hell are you going to trace that?
You wouldn't be able to because there's just too much chaos, too many people.
Just
you wouldn't be able to
imagine the rubbish and all the just shit afterwards. Like
No.
I mean, in saying that, they find bodies and stuff after 9/11 tower crumbling, so there's potential the cops are competent enough to do that sort of work. But crazy thing overnight, 8 people.
That's
from 50,000. That's like 1 in every 6,500.
He's gonna have a very tough time for a while, Travis Scott, depending on if he's going to be doing any more concerts. Like, is he going to be cancelling the next concert?
Well, what's her name? What's the wife's name? Kylie Jenner.
Yeah,
she like filmed a video and put it on Twitter of like the crowd from all the way at the back with the ambulance in the middle, just the ambulance and the red light in the middle of the crowd. And also some idiots were like trying to rage out and like jumping up and like climbed up and started jumping up and down in the ambulance as it was trying to treat unconscious people.
Are people just idiots?
It's ridiculous.
That is insane. Like, it's an ambulance trying to literally save lives and they're just jumping up on top. But
so like that's like my whole point. Sorry, are we becoming too
desensitized
to death? It's just all over the place. And then, especially with the kidnapping of that little girl Cleo in WA, like everyone after 18 days of being kidnapped, you'd assume like the worst outcome possible, and it wasn't the case. So like we sort of became not comfortable, but like from afar, you're like, that's just how it is. That's what's happened. You become comfortable with death almost.
But it could be also a factor that as we're getting older, we are seeing more as well. So, you think about and this is like no comparison, but you have, the grandparents that lived through a war, so they're a little bit more tougher. They can withstand, or they're not as shocked as, big events like that happening because they've lived through it. So is it because we've lived through so many deaths and with COVID and, especially here in Australia with the bushfires, the floods, like everything that's been going on, like as we personally get older, are we just finding it less shocking because we're used to it? We've just seen it a lot more often.
Are we just seeking it out? But where are the good news stories? Do we have any good news stories? Have any good news stories here to like counteract this? I don't think so.
Well, they're just news stories in general.
I suppose most of it's going to be, if it bleeds, it leads type of situation.
Well, those are things that always attract media as well, like drama sells, right? Tragedy sells.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the things that are going to get the most
There's always that
click-through.
one news story on a current affair, though, so it puts a little smile on your dial.
They always have to end with a happy story, right? It's called, they used to, like with critical conversation stuff, they used to call it like I'm going to say shit sandwich. Yeah, so you start with something good, do the heavy stuff in the middle, and then end on a good story. So it's like a positive spin to it. So
can you give this podcast, not this podcast like episode, but like the podcast in general, a shit sandwich?
Well, what did we talked about how COVID was the first thing, so that was pretty.
Okay, yeah, carry on.
Then we'll talk about things like good space stuff, and then and then we've got the Travis Scott. And then we'll end with something funny.
All right, we've still got half an hour, so we've got to keep mulling on the horrid and horrible things in the world.
But yeah, that's pretty fun. But I don't think that we are getting a little bit more desensitized as our years go on. But I don't think it's anything that's out of the ordinary. I think it just comes naturally depending on what we live through and what our experiences are. Yeah, it's going to be
interesting.
It is. Yeah, especially how next year is going to go, because we're in November now, only one more month to go. and then it's 2022.
I feel like there's at least time for another one or two major global catastrophes to happen before Christmas. I'm feeling like Christmas Day will be there's going to be a big deal. Day like 23rd to 25th, there's going to be something dramatic happening.
Well,
I can just feel it. Hey.
Well, it is coming up towards summer, and like especially here in Australia, and compared to what happened 2 years ago with the bushfires, like as it gets warmer, there's always that fear, especially in the area that we're in, is just you have that dry day, and you're like, this is the day. This is the day it's going to happen. Some idiot's going to go out and
saying that
do
we
something.
need to buy a fireproof safe before we forget about it.
Yeah, for all our documents and everything that we want to keep secure.
All our receipts for our thrifted goods.
But yeah, but you never know. Like with how this year's going to go, it might be something catastrophe happening. But at the moment, it's all right. There's no crazy fires happening. Everything seems all right. The only thing that's sort of in a whirlwind at the moment is bloody Scott Morrison, and with his at the press conference just getting hammered overseas.
I need to start spending time researching politics properly, because I go through stages of being like mildly interested to not caring, and it usually cycles around elections and just the amount of bullshit that's going on. This guy this week has made just a mockery out of himself.
And Australia as well.
It's not Australia.
Well, he kept trying to throw Australia under the rug.
No, but he tries to spin it like that, but everyone knows deep down that no one has anything to do with it. He's the one calling the shots. Him and his team, have their final say on everything. So although people are saying, he's making Australia look stupid, no, it's not the case. We won't stand for that shit.
No.
He's out at the next election for sure. Just the whole submarine debacle.
Oh, far out with France. It's
a nightmare.
It is a nightmare with the leaked text message. This all happened as well while they're at the summit for global warming.
Yep.
And where Australia is
basically not
participating fully because so it's going to be Australia, China.
The global, whatever it is, COP20, whatever it's called, they're trying to get to net carbon emissions
by 2025?
2050. Net zero.
Yeah.
But every country in the UN sort of, fuck man, I really don't know what I'm talking about, has agreed to try and hit net zero carbon emissions by 2050, which is 30 years, 35 years.
It's not that far away at all. So they get countries to sort of re-engage within this contract.
Well, they try to set closer targets for 2030, just to keep the momentum going and say, it's all about when you set a big goal, you want to set smaller milestones so you're keeping on track, right? And basically Australia and Scotty and his crew have refused to sort of commit to a 2030 target.
They're like, we'll do it in our own way, but it's being very vague about it.
Well, he's banking on some sort of technology that hasn't really been nutted out or explained in depth.
That's right, because they asked him what technology, and he's like, there's just going to be some sort of technology.
It's going to be coal, I'm guessing.
Man, it's so annoying with
some sort of helpful benefit, carbon-friendly coal.
Yeah, and that's right, because you're saying Australia has a unique standing because, we're a big island in the Pacific, so we have a unique look on things. That's not the case. Every country needs to do their part to save the whole entire planet, because we're going to get to that stage where it's irreversible if we don't do anything about it. So it's just frustrating knowing that the majority of the population wants change to happen, but you have someone like Scott Morrison and his party just pretty much saying, yeah, we hear you, but no.
And it's embarrassing to see him go about the summit there, because there's footage of him walking around and no one wants to engage with him, shake his hand. He looks like having the worst time. If you can imagine going to a party by yourself and not knowing anyone, or having one friend and that friend, goes and mingles with everyone else and you get left alone, that's what it looked like. And it looked fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just not playing ball. And then this whole sub debacle, I guess they were in communications with doing a deal to manufacture subs here for the French. Was that the deal? We were going to build it for them.
No, they were going to build submarines for us. So we were going to be giving them money. So because Australia needs submarines, but then apparently they let him know earlier on that like, oh, we might not do this deal. And then it was 2 days before the deal was meant to happen that he was like, nah, I'm going to be partnering with the UK and America instead.
So it was a lack of communication. And then
apparently he wrote him a letter and sent him a text message saying, not going to go for it.
And then was it president or prime minister of France? Would it be prime minister, right? Would be president of France.
President, I think.
I don't think so.
No, because they're not under the Union Jack, so they'll be president. Yeah,
basically called our boy Scotty. Definitely not our boy. I don't know why I said that.
Not our boy Scotty, a liar.
Yeah, and Scotty just went to crisis mode.
Yeah,
he just had to start defending himself, and leaked a text message. What is he, like 5? Honestly, is he literally a child? Goes into panic mode. Has to figure out how to
save face.
Retain his credibility as a leader, making the right decision, and spins it as if Macron was taking shots at the Australian population instead of taking shots at Prime Minister Morrison
and his
actions.
Team,
And released a text message between them on the highest level. You don't get any higher level than that in terms of communication between two leaders or two humans.
Yeah.
That's as high as it gets.
100%.
And he leaked it just to prove his point that he wasn't in the wrong, but in releasing the SMS, it just verified how much of a dickhead he is. I
know. Something like that is worthy of a phone call. Apparently Macron wasn't taking any phone calls, but that's just push through, leave a message. It's like breaking up with someone via text message. It's such a shitty thing to do. It's no, I don't think this is going to work out. See ya.
He can't be winning the next election.
No, I don't think
he's
so.
messed up way too much. He's lost, a lot of credibility in the last couple of months. This time last year, the year before, he was out in Hawaii while the bushfires were going on.
I know. That was the first major strike of him.
He hasn't had a good run. He did shit his pants at Engadine Macca's once, though.
Oh, really?
You don't know that? It's
no.
a common meme, he shit his pants in Engadine Macca's drive-thru.
Poor guy.
And people, to this day, drive through Engadine Macca's and, ask, did Scotty Morrison shit his pants here? They must get it every day.
They would have to, just to get a giggle out of it. But
the staff would have to get training and all right, you want to work here for your 3-month
these are your 3 most common questions you get asked.
Yes, upsize is $2.50.
No, the ice cream machine is broken. And
if anyone asks anything about shitting and Scott Morrison, just say, would you like fries with that?
Be the most common response. Yeah, you just get trained in your responses.
Where's the most populated space you've ever shit your pants?
I've never pooped my pants, thank you. So only as a baby, not as an adult.
I have to set this
up.
Thank
you.
Future prank.
Yeah.
April Fools, look out.
Yeah, to secretly slip me laxatives in my coffee. That would be the way to do it. I'm going to be conscious now. But not only was the whole entire Australian government in a whirlwind, our own state has been in a whirlwind as well, with Gladys and stepping down and her being trialed by is it the
ICAC?
Yeah.
They're all corrupt.
What is it? It always ties into construction and...
It's all corrupt.
It's crazy.
It's all construction and mining and banks and politicians. It's all fucking bullshit.
And casinos.
And they're all just tied in to this underground world of doing deals and passing money here and there and asking no questions, hearing no lies.
Yep.
It's a nightmare to even try and keep up with or understand.
Yeah, and not long after Gladys stepped down, Dominic, right? Yeah. He replaced her, but then there was a phone call leaked where she was trying to get, what's the Dubbo guy called?
You got to set it up. You need to really set up stories better and give them context.
Well, you're the best. Do you want to set up the story?
Well, I know the information and how it should be laid out. I'm just not good at forming sentences. So basically, our former premier Gladys Berejiklian had a love affair with, what's his name?
I feel like I should.
Old filthy white guy.
Yes.
For a Dubbo MP, I think he was. Secret relationship, and there was just a lot of backdoor deals and manipulation and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type of situation, and just dodgy deals. And they take a lot of money from donors and stuff when they shouldn't, never declare it. That's a lot of the problem, is they're just taking donations or making deals and not declaring it.
Mhm.
and it's resurfaced 2-3 years later, and the person has to leave, and they get paid remittance for the rest of their life or whatever. How it works, but
tax dollars at some point.
this guy is it Tony Burke? I don't think that's his name. It just came to mind for some reason. They were doing deals and stuff. They were in like a secret relationship, and at one point he's like, "There's no money for my hospital in my area for the budget," and she was just like, "Let me make a phone call real quick."
And this is all wiretapped as well. So this is all like recorded phone calls.
We're the worst at telling stories.
That's fine.
But yeah, she was like, I'll handle it. I'll get you the money 2 minutes later. Calls Dom Perriget, who is now our current premier.
Oh, yeah.
And just said, yeah, I got you an extra 170 mil in the budget for your hospital. No questions asked. Like, so these are just the stories you hear about. Like, how much of this shit goes on every day?
I know.
And at what level? Like, is it your local government? It's at every level, man.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Literally calls him back and like, I've got you the money.
Yeah.
Like within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine doing a budget, you're sitting down, like, this is how I would imagine it. You're sitting down with 20 financial advisors, lawyers, a whole team on a huge table. Maybe order some Uber Eats, Subway for about 100 people, pre-cut sandwiches. Everyone's getting fed, everyone's working. And you need to nut out where all the money's going, right?
You do. Like, it all needs to be accounted for. But
so,
I guess...
how do you just reallocate 170 mil? Where's that come from? Is it added in, or is it pulled from somewhere else? And now someone's like, we're 170 mil down now for the roads.
And is this the scenarios that we hear? Is like, this particular area had to get budget cuts.
Yeah.
Because that money then got reallocated to Dubbo's Hospital or some area like that. Like, it's pretty crazy that all these backdoor handshakes are happening.
It would happen so much that you don't ever want to know about it.
Yeah.
Because you have no control over it unless you're going to every town meeting, or you're following every Twitter article, or you're watching every Parliament time, like every day of the week. You can't follow it.
No.
You can't follow it. And then the media aren't going to report on half of it.
No, because a lot of the media is owned by particular people that, whisper in the government's ears to do particular deals and laws and stuff for them. Like, it's so full on. And then I don't even know too much about this, but it was the offshore new asylum area and how much that cost. And that was even crazy to think about how much money is going into that as well.
What about it? I don't know anything about it.
Now, remember, there was like a benchmark. I think it was going to cost like a couple of $1 billion to house refugees, I think, or asylum seekers. But I think they were saying it was like a ridiculous amount of money. And then is it even more just people laundering money? Like, it's full on.
Probably is.
Like, and that's our government right now. We've got
government forever, though.
I know. We've got like a prime minister who like just has like the smirkiest look on his face always. We've just recently had our premier step down, and the person taking over is in her pocket. Like, what is going on with that country right now?
It's the same old story. And the thing is, like, it's interesting now all this shit's going on. And then, there'll be nothing but politics and news until, I think they're saying maybe an election in March. Until that, and then it won't be anything for 6 months, and then it'll be some other news article that takes over.
It just depends if there's going to be another spill, because Australians or Australian politics love their spills.
Yeah.
Like, just... You know what? Don't even worry about voting for prime ministers anymore, guys. We're just going to swap and change when we feel like it. What's the point?
Yeah, they just but Labor's nowhere near as good as well. Like, they're just as horrible.
It's the lesser of two evils, right? Like, who's going to do the majority of the stuff that you hope the country will achieve, rather than liking something that they will have. But that's the way politics goes, right? It's just always going to be the lesser of two evils. You're never going to be 100% happy with what they're putting forward.
They just get away with so much shit. They're not held to accountability at all. Like, even just two things we can skip over right now really briefly without getting into it is, like, this bloke here, Victorian MP Tim Smith, quit politics after drink driving crash. He crashed his car. Don't know into what. He was twice... let me read it real quick. Liberal MP Tim Smith has announced he will quit politics at the next state election a week after crashing his car while drink driving. Resigned from shadow cabinet after he crashed his car into a Hawthorn fence last Saturday night while more than 2 times
Two times.
the legal blood alcohol limit.
Why would you even get behind a car?
Yeah, and then he tried like wiggly. I think they spent a day or two trying to go into battle mode and, you know, say it wasn't the biggest deal and apologizes and do whatever else, go AA
tries
or some
to
bullshit.
save face, but
And then after a day or two of just getting, I imagine, an amount of backlash and hateful letters and stuff, has to resign. So they try and wiggle their way out of it for a little bit and then...
test the waters to see how much like damage control they can do, and if they can't, they just cut their losses.
Same as like the John Barilaro stuff and like the defamation suit with friendlyjordies, like all that stuff. Like they try and wiggle their way around for a little while until, you know, the people do have their power and they do have a voice and they step up and say, no, that's not right. Or there's enough of a backlash that something has to happen. But I guess the bigger the person is, the bigger the backlash there needs to be to have any impact.
That friendlyjordies case has been going on for about a year, right? It's been, I remember when he released those videos, like for those that don't know, like friendlyjordies, he's a Sydney-sider, used to do a lot of skits and stuff, used to just like make fun of Aussies and be he's colloquial, and then he started to get a little bit more into politics and have politics commentary.
Yeah.
And then I remembered he would start making videos about the corrupt, you know, or just the corrupt aspect and stuff, and then started calling attention to it, which I thought was really interesting. And they sort of tried to shut him down in the beginning, but sort of kept persevering because he's just that type of person.
Just like if any Americans listening, I guess here in Australia, it's like a chaser style political satire, making fun of political figures and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's not perfect either. Like, he's made mistakes. He's done, like, he's had to put out a few of his own apology videos. But when it comes to the politics aspects of it, a lot of stuff that he says, or a lot of stuff he reveals, he's just like, this can't be true.
Yeah. He spends the time doing his due diligence and research, unlike us.
No.
So what happened? They had Mr. Barilaro didn't like one of these videos or skits, found it offensive and tried basically having... had a defamation case against him, saying this is defamatory towards me, my position, want your videos taken down, all that sort of stuff. And now it's been settled, and I believe no videos are taken down, and all legal fees were paid by the police or something like that.
So it would have been paid for the government, so he would have been covered. So I think in theory, like, friendlyjordies must have won most of the case. I think he has to edit his videos. He doesn't have to take them down, which is huge.
Like, Barilaro and the government are like...
paying for his legal fees. Yeah.
Interesting.
So which means we're paying for his, which I don't mind. Like, he's put a lot of stuff into light.
But like, it's like, that's, I mean, it's a lot of money, but like when you say it, like we pay, like it's a tiny bit of like the drop in the ocean compared to everything else. Plus, you know, there's another wound for another politician that's had too much power for too long. But
it keeps them in check. Like, you need, as much as you may agree or disagree with these, I guess, political commentators, like, you need people like that from both sides because it helps put these things into light.
It's freedom of speech.
Pretty much, essentially it is, because without people like that, then how do we find out that these backdoor deals are happening?
Yeah. Interesting. It comes down to freedom of speech at the end of the day. If you're getting told you can't make videos because it's saying one thing or another, like, if he was threatening his life or his family or making, like, doing anything crazy like that, I understand. But if it was just making fun...
Yeah, like, if he's not causing any, like, danger or harm...
And it's just because he's a political figure that he get away with it, you know what I mean? Like, get away with, like, trying to make a bigger deal out of it and trying to, like, use his power to influence what someone can or can't say. Same as, like, you know, there's so much suppression of people's content at the moment on different platforms about COVID or ivermectin. You don't want to say ivermectin on the internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you get banned.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just freedom of speech. If you can speech like us. So, yeah, plenty of stuff going on in the world, Sarah. Plenty of stuff.
Yeah, like, it's... Like we said, there was just heaps happening this week. So this came in, so the John Barilaro thing finally got settled. So it'd be interesting what type of content friendlyjordies will be putting forward, if he's just going to keep continuing on and try and, I guess, expose a few other people. Like, it's... Can we just get our country sorted, please?
It's not going to be sorted.
No. And this would have to be a similar conversation in countries across the world. There'd be people that love or hate, you know, the people that are in power. I mean, and with power corrupts, so there's probably always going to be the dodgers out there.
Yeah, I am complaining about having our freedom of speech not removed, but limited to a degree. But for the most part, we're sweet. But, once one or two cases like this slip, and it is a slippery slope, but should be grateful that we can even like read articles like this or research or put a tweet out or put a video out. I mean, you're in North Korea or something, a whole different story.
Very much a whole different story. So we should be, as much as we complain about it, we should be quite grateful that we are in a place that we're in, that we can actually be comfortable. But
knowledge is also power for us as well. So like we need to utilize that and be opportunistic about what is at our disposal and what we can research and stuff without getting too dark and grim and spending all day reading the horror stories.
Yeah, and you can really put yourself down into that rabbit hole of like all the bad things that are happening in the world. But yeah, you just got to find that one or two happy stories.
You should end with a puppy video or a cat video once in a while.
Yeah, just a nice little one of those happy stories. What is it, like the Marines coming home or something that will just tear you up?
But it does feel like a changing of the guards here in Australia though as well. Like another article here we have is Alan Jones being finally coming to an end. His reign at Sky... What did he work at? 2GB or 3AW or whatever the fuck it's called?
Yeah, 2GB, and then so he's been sacked, fired, or he left, whatever, from Sky News. Obviously, he's one of those people who'll be like, I'll still be around, check out my Facebook, didn't he say?
Yeah, so...
He's that old, so he's like, don't check out my YouTube, check out my Facebook.
Alan Jones, 80-year-old radio TV personality. What's the best word you'd use to describe Alan Jones?
He's just... very loud, very opinionated, political.
Opinionated.
Yeah, and he's very one-sided. Wait, is he Liberal or Labour? I can never remember.
He's super liberal.
Super liberal, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, they're both bad, whatever.
Very opinionated and also very persuasive to a certain demographic that's, hasn't moved on since the 80s or 90s. Not to say it in a bad way, but some people get caught in their decade and they don't outgrow their decade and look at new sources of information.
So a bit like those older people that call into those gardening shows.
Yeah. They don't read Facebook. They don't read other sources. They're stuck in their way. They listen to their AM radio all day long. Talkback
radio while they're gardening or cooking or reading the newspaper.
So there's a huge baby boomer population in Australia. So
huge.
Like the reason I say there's a changing of the guards, it just feels like, there's changes happening. Like Bert Newton, old dude, he's gone. Alan Jones, not gone yet, but look at that face. It's pretty smug. He's gone from radio. It feels like the boomers are sort of on their way out in terms of their hold on society and their influence and calling the shots. Obviously, there's still a lot left, and we're going to be dealing with a huge elderly retired population in the next 20 or 30 years. That we're going to have a huge percentage of our population in retirement homes compared to now, because people are living longer.
They are.
And the people that are in their 50s and 60s now are going to be living on well into the 80s and 90s. So we've got a long way of that generation sort of being around and being alive, but in terms of them having a voice, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So, and like, friendly Geordies, younger generation of sort of followers and content creators having more of a prolific voice compared to sort of the other side of the coin with like Alan Jones here, for example. So I feel like there's huge change going to be happening in the next 5-10 years.
100%. And there's always going to be this tipping point because, oh man, this is going to sound so harsh, but when you've got maybe like 20 years to live or 10 years to live, it's like, can you be setting those policies for the future? I guess you could probably do it for like your children and going forward, but it's going to be people that are our age or people that are like 50 and under that need to hold the majority vote for that kind of thing to happen. So Australia did, like you mentioned, had a huge baby boom because they were trying to promote, this is when like real estate was super cheap. Like Australia thrived on having everybody own a home. Like that was like their mentality. That was like what we did work up to, is owning that, that 4-bedroom brick home in a suburban cul-de-sac, with green front lawn. Like that was the Australian dream. Now it's sort of switching to people, rather than having their forever home, they're turning more to the investment aspect. So there's definitely this change in like mindset of like how Australia should be run and like where the Australians want their tax dollars to be spent as well. So people like Alan Jones and his voice is going to become like null and void soon because he's not the majority voice anymore, or like they're not the majority.
Radio's dead and dying.
Mm-hmm. Like it's all about podcasting.
Formal TV is still going to be around, but like not to the extent that it is like today or was 5 years ago.
No.
Just, there's too many options online.
100%. And think about like every now and then, just for giggles, we'll turn on like the AM radio for talkback and think about how many people our age that actually do that. Probably not much at all. So there's this whole source of media that people sort of listen to that's going to be, non-existent.
Yeah, like calling into a radio show is the equivalent of just doing a tweet now.
100. Oh my gosh, yeah, 100% it is. Like that's the new version. So rather than waiting on someone to answer your call and for your voice to be spoken, you can just put it out there whenever you want at the fingertips.
No holding on the phone.
No prizes to be won, like a hat or a bum bag or a new gardening
you could potentially
subscription.
Get a nice little retweet if you're lucky.
Yeah, from the person that you're tagging.
Yeah,
but it's really interesting how, and I'm just going to circle back, like people like Alan Jones is the way they deliver media is just going to be non-existent anymore, and people just won't listen.
Yeah. And I imagine he was heavily influenced by, people that are very, very, very rich.
Well, like isn't
magnates,
like
real estate magnates.
I was going to say like
Packer.
Murdoch, right?
Yeah.
Like they were quite hand in hand. And I think towards every new election, he's so vocal and he'd be like, this is the party you should vote for. This is the person. Like he's such a front runner or such a huge voice around political time as well to try and get his sway.
It's just dirty shit, man. Like there's just so much.
But isn't there always going to be that in the background though? No matter like even people like our age, like it's just, is there ever going to be a dirty free or just something that's purely honest?
Well, we were saying the other day what we were talking about scam artists, right? What was in reference to?
Oh, well, just started listening. One of my friends recommended, it's called Crypto Queen. It's a podcast from like 2019. But as we're listening to it, because we've listened to heaps of different styles like that, like Generation Hustle, I'm like, why does all pyramid schemes start off sounding the same?
Sounding the same, yeah. They seem too good to be true. Charismatic leader.
Mm-hmm.
Buzzwords. Say some sort of global save the planet. Worldwide change, fundamental initiative surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, scams happen way more frequently than people are probably aware of. So there's scams. It doesn't have to be like a major scam where you're some sort of getting, a text message from some group in Nigeria that wants to marry you and fly you out there and take your money. There's scams that have a lot of money and scams that are on very minor levels. But there's a lot of scammers out there. In every community I've been in, there's been a scammer. Like I've been vegan for like 10 years now in a bunch of community groups and Facebook groups and that sort of thing. There's always scammers, always liars trying to sabotage or, have their self-entitlement at the forefront of their mind and are trying to scam people to get their way. Reselling, there's scammers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to you about how I grew up with people that went to school and one of them basically scammed their partner out of a pregnancy and said they were pregnant and had all these fake diseases and stuff and started a GoFundMe page and raised a lot of money in support of their
illness
and their triplets that were
supposedly
in utero.
Yeah, this
and it was all fake. It was all a scam. Ran off with the money. So like it happens everywhere. So yeah, another bad news story to add to today's episode.
Yeah, well, that one happened. I remember you telling me about that, and I was just so tripped out. And I'm like, you do hear these stories on the news, you listen to the podcasts and things like that, but you never realize it actually happens in everyday community.
Everywhere.
Like the amount of people that would have those fake GoFundMe pages would be insane. And I think wasn't there a lady in Australia, I think it was like a couple of years ago, she pretended that she had cancer and had like a GoFundMe page, and all that got light in the media as well.
Same as like, it's like you can't, it's the boy who cried wolf type thing. Like I started the episode with, Like, are we becoming like too desensitized to like death or like scary or just like horrible shit? So like that little girl Cleo that got kidnapped, straight away there was fingers pointing at the parents. Like, this is a very strange set of circumstances. Seems like a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to just assume it's a scam.
Well, especially when, remember how that little boy disappeared and the footage was missing when he disappeared. This was like, I think 3 months ago.
The New South Outback one bit.
Yeah. And like a little boy disappeared and then he was like found maybe 2 or 3 days later.
Just drinking water, right?
Something like that, like down near a pond where apparently they searched like thousands of times.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then so when you hear the story about Cleo and then obviously the fingers are going to point at the parents because you've just had like a story like this that seems super sus. But again,
this is like, how conspiracy theorists and theories rise up, because you're just bombarded with so much news and just bad shit happening. You've got to assume it's a scam all the time, and then if you proved wrong, you proved wrong. You find other ways to validate your point of view.
Yeah. But that Cleo story is so, like, it was so surprising because everybody was expecting the worst, where you got like the best scenario happening with her still being alive. Like, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. Like, it's scary, but thankful that she's still okay.
Yeah.
Like, was it 18 days? You would not expect it at all.
18 days, like based on statistics and other missing child cases or abductions like that, there's not much hope left after 18 days.
No. And she was found not far away from the campsite, safe and sound.
It was an hour away.
Yeah.
Playing with
Bratz dolls.
Bratz dolls at 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying if you're a parent.
Yeah.
And I think we'll leave it there on the horrible note.
No, I was.
What's
like,
if you want to end it on a good news story, go for it. I got nothing to add. I'm depressed now, and I'm ready to move on to the day.
No, the whole stories was sort of, you remember on TV the other day they had that parent show and like different parenting styles.
Yeah.
So after like something like that happening, would you then become one of those like helicopter parents? Mm-mm. Would you still be able to grace their freedom? Like, it'd be so scary.
Let them run wild.
Yeah. Learn more. What type of, as you were a kid, were you able to run wild? Were your parents quite close, or were you just sort of left off to your own devices?
Left to our own devices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like your childhood, did you have like neighborhood kids that you'd play with, or it was mainly your siblings? Yeah. Did you get up to like no good?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time?
Of course.
Yeah, because you grew up quite close to the beach, didn't you?
Not no good.
Yeah.
But like stuff that could have ended badly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right next to the beach, yeah. So like we had the beach to go and surf all the time.
Yeah. Whereas my childhood before we moved up to Sydney was in Victoria, and our property, we're pretty lucky. Like, we're the end house in a cul-de-sac up on a hill, and like all around our back area before it like got sold and stuff was like just bushland. So we'd just run off into the bush, play around, just have to watch out for snakes and try and find tadpoles and all that kind of thing. But yeah, we'd just run amuckus throughout throughout the cul-de-sac. Ruckus, same thing.
Run amok.
Yeah, run amok.
I see where you're going with that. Run amuckus.
Yeah, run amuckus.
Sure.
Yeah, and then just like each weekend you'd go to a different neighborhood kid's house and just hang out, or you'd go see the lady that would keep her glasses in the freezer for some unknown reason to get a nice cool glass when on those hot summer days.
It's hard to say. I wouldn't be a helicopter parent. There's so much to fear in the world. You're only going to project that onto your child. If you're worried about everything that they're doing, they're going to grow up worrying about everything that they're doing. Simple. Like, let them run wild. It's just about building up the kid, I get. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say without having a kid. But, like, yeah. I guess, like the thing is to, like, let them run wild. Let them learn their own mistakes. Don't micromanage every decision or everything in their life. If they fuck up, show them why they fucked up. It's like the why. Like, why?
Yeah. No,
don't run over there in that bush because this could happen. Let me reiterate, this is why I don't want you to do it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's such an important thing.
It's hard enough to talk to you or Archie half the time, so.
But it's, they got to be able to climb the trees and scrape your knees. Like, that's the whole thing.
You're a rapper.
Yeah, thank you. Climb your knees, scrape your knees. No, climb your knees, scrape your trees. That's what I just said. You know what I mean. But it's, I don't know, like it's just very How do you know until you have kids?
You
really?
don't.
No.
Interesting show, though. All right, let's wrap it up there. Nice little hour and a half almost podcast. Episode 25. I think we'll try and do longer ones every now and then. Plenty to cover. We'll try and tidy up the format so it's not too jumbled in the future. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for sticking with us this year. We've got 1 month left of the year. I think we'll get to about 28 episodes this year and then back at it next year. Hopefully we're going to make a little new studio space. So stick around for that. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, video version also on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the channel to see the video version. We usually put little clips and overlays on there as well.
We do. We like to cut up the best bits or the funny bits, and sometimes Drew will actually do cute little overlays on the video version as well.
Yep.
Every now and then.
And while you're in your app store right now, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review to really help the channel and the podcast grow in listeners and show us to some new users. We really appreciate that.
100%.
We might do a giveaway at some point for the best comment.
Maybe 50th episode we'll do a giveaway.
50 episode we'll do
something.
I think we have an old Look Mum mug from the first iteration of Look Mum.
Hold on. No? All right.
Cutting the right here. So stick around for that, I guess. Yeah, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.